Hello everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze and to this week's canning chat. We have all kinds of really great questions. We're going to jump right in. Marcia Vonderwish says, help please, does anyone have a suggestion on a portable heating device for pressure canning? Because her glass top stove is not taking it anymore. So Marcia, the thing is we need more information. So what kind of canner do you use? Okay, is it an All-American? Is it a Presto? Are you looking for a countertop, alternative, or are you looking for a outside alternative? There's some variables in there that we need, but what I'm going to do here is anybody that has experience with portable heating device for canners, in the comment section down below, toss what your canner is and what your portable heating device is, okay? And then hopefully we can help Marcia out that way. Janice Twitty. I have a question. I just saw a video where someone made a marinade using balsamic vinegar, honey, and then seasoned the chicken thighs with seasonings and marinated the chicken overnight. Pardon me. And then canned the chicken the next day using about 1/4 cup of the marinade as liquid. Okay, filling up to the inch line, since they were using quart jars 90 minutes. I could not find an approved recipe for this. I'm betting that you won't find an approved recipe for this. You're not going to. You're not going to. First of all, you're raw packing chicken, and then you're adding vinegar and honey that you sat the chicken in overnight, and you're canning that. Honest to goodness, I wouldn't do this on a bet, okay? So, no, my simple answer is no. I mean, no. First of all, 90 minutes with honey, the honey could scorch. Second, and depending how much there is. Then there's the vinegar. You see, I have to just work this through in my head a little bit. Then there's the vinegar. Wow, that would be some vinegary chicken. Second, you're adding a liquid to raw packed chicken. That's never a good idea. Because here's the thing with this, okay? Bear with me for a second. Raw packed chicken, when you are canning raw packed chicken, aka ugly chicken, you are cooking the chicken in the jar. The liquid in the jar is never meant to cover the chicken, ever, okay? It is the liquid that comes out of the meat naturally by cooking it. So by bringing that marinade liquid, which is just wrong, but by bringing that marinade liquid up to an inch headspace, you're not giving it any extra room for the liquid in the chicken that may come out while cooking, which is going to probably cause siphoning, or can very likely cause siphoning. That's a whole thing there. So my recommendation is I wouldn't. Karen Cowley. Hey. When I canned my carrots, I didn't blanch them. Are they safe to eat? Okay, so the approved method for canning carrots is to blanch them. So after that, it's a judgment call. The knit and honey. About stacking jars. I know that you should not stack jars on top of each other, but also here it's okay to stack if you put cardboard between the layers, only 3 high. Yes. Can someone explain why that makes a difference? Yeah, because it provides a cushion. You're not getting that direct weight right on top of the jar. So it's not right on top of the lid. It's actually cushioned, and it makes a difference. It really does. So you should be fine with that. It's just an easy way to do it if you're limited on space. So you just find some corrugated cardboard, or hey, elections are coming out. You could always find those corrugated plastic signs that people leave up all over the place after the elections and use those too. They work. Ask me how I know. Seabass. Hello, my friend. Oh boy, I'm seeing canning milk videos all over the place. I sure don't like what I'm seeing. They're bringing the pressure up to whatever their location is, then shutting it off. No 70 minutes or 90. Yeah, okay. So no, my opinion is don't. No, don't do it. Okay. One, canning milk, period, has not been tested and is not approved, and I consider it to not be safe. Okay. But doing it that way, that is seriously playing Russian roulette with your loved ones. And I don't believe in that. Lou Owens. I canned strawberry jam last month, and I'm pretty sure I forgot to put lemon juice in. I am going to throw away. Do I need to throw away the jars also? No. You clean the jars. Just clean the jars. Life is busy. Life is always crazy busy, okay? So make yourself a list and tick it off of the ingredients, you know? And that way you know that you caught everything on the list as you're checking it off. But jars, I know there's something on the site that says that you should do this, that, no, okay? Don't throw away the jars. Empty the contents, dispose of it properly, and then wash the jars. It's glass. It's reusable. It's good. Don't waste the jars. Donna Blakely says, I'm a fairly new canner, and I've been canning chicken, beef, and pork. My husband says the chicken tastes like tuna, even canned raw pack, hot pack, with stock, with water. The ground beef tastes like dog food, hot packed. What am I doing wrong, or am I? You are doing nothing wrong as long as you're following the process from the National Center for Home Food Preservation. What I will tell you is that some people seem to have this thing where canned chicken tastes like tuna. I have never experienced it. I personally have never eaten dog food, so I cannot make that comparison. But people say it looks like it. So the deal with that is to make something with it without him knowing, okay? Cook up a casserole or something and put it in there. And my bet is if he doesn't know, then he won't know. But also, when it comes to the beef, brown it up, okay? Unless I'm putting it into a casserole or a soup or something like that, if I'm making tacos, I take that canned ground beef and I put it in a skillet and I brown it up. I cook it down and crisp it up a little bit, okay? So that does make a difference. But if you're putting it into something that's already soft anyway, there's no need. And I'm betting that what he doesn't know, he doesn't know. Okay, so we have S Hat says, 2 questions. 1, you have tons of boxes of edible wax. What do you do with it? I don't have tons. I probably have half a dozen. And I have it just in case. I have it just in case. Wax can always be melted down and used for a number of things, and so it's just one of those things that I keep in my preps. Number 2, you have to add acid to pressure canning tomatoes. I thought that was only for water baths. No, for a very long time now, it has been both water bath and pressure canning tomatoes. They have bred our tomatoes to be sweeter. They are breeding the acid out of the tomatoes, okay? So they now require, for the canning process, to put it in both. I'll put a link down below for canning tomatoes, pressure can, and water bath. You'll have all that information. It's absolutely necessary. Susan Vance, always peel potatoes, right? Right. You should never can potatoes with the skin on. They are in the dirt. You cannot get all of those microorganisms out of it. And yeah, peel your potatoes. Kenna Hermes. I have a couple of questions, please. First, if I am canning 6 quarts of, for example, stew meat in broth, and I don't have enough to fill 7 quarts, but I can fill 6 quarts and 1 pint, is that okay? Or should my 7th quart have less meat and more broth? I know the pint will be over processed, but want to know if it's okay. Second, okay, so the first question is you can absolutely do a pint. Yeah, you'll process it for 15 minutes more. You'll process it for the quart time. And so that's absolutely fine. If you want a whole bunch of stew meat or if you want some stew meat with a whole bunch of liquid, then same thing, either way is fine. Second question is, when I don't have a full canner load, is there a specific way to load jars in the canner? Do you load the jars in the center of the canner, or do you line the edges of the canner with the jar spread out more? Okay, so she says, sorry, I'm a tad OCD. No problem. I tend to go around the outside because that way at least I feel it's being held up to some extent. You know what I mean? Less chance for it moving around. Totally up to you. Don't overthink this. Okay. Just put the jars in the canner. You're good. Good questions. So much time. If you are pressure canning tomatoes, why would you have to add acid? You don't to things like green beans. I don't get the reasoning. I water bath can acidic things like salsa, but pressure can my tomatoes with nothing else added. per the book that came with my Presto. Help me, Obi-Wan. Okay, that was funny. Okay, so first, you pressure can green beans. Yes, okay. If you're going to water bath, definitely you need the acidity, okay? But if you're going to pressure can it, I'm going to read you directly from the National Center for Home Food Preservation, okay? Let me find it here. If a procedure from the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning for canning tomatoes offers both water bath and pressure canning options, all steps in the preparation procedure are still required even if the pressure processing option is chosen. This includes acidification. The boiling water and pressure alternatives are equal processes with different time temperature combinations calculated for these products. They calculated them. The pressure processing options in these products were not developed for tomatoes without adding acid. They didn't develop them without adding the acid. So that's the answer. Krista Nelson, is it safe to add zucchini to your tomato-based products when water bath canning, like salsa recipes and seasoned tomato sauce? I think the general answer is no, okay? But it's not a safe, tested recipe. And again, I'm going to refer back, you guys, check out the National Center for Home Food Preservation, okay? Let me see if they have a salsa recipe here. Off the top of my head, without spending too much time looking, I don't see one. But I'm assuming, let me run with that one. If you can find a tested recipe, okay, either on the National Center for Home Food Preservation or on Ball or, you know, something like that, then go for it. Otherwise, I don't know, because it never has occurred to me to add zucchini to my tomato-based products like salsa, even though I'm sure it would be good. It just adds more texture to it. But if you're water bath, I wouldn't do it water bath canning. How's that? Yeah. Pressure canning, I trust, gets a little hotter and gets the heat and stuff through it. I don't have a great answer for you, and I hate that I don't have a great answer for you. But mainly it's because I'm not seeing... Oh, salsa. Canning salsa. There is a whole link here for salsa, different salsa recipes. So I would say take a look at those. I'll put the link down below and see what you find. That's the answer I'm going with. Okay. Because they test all these recipes. So I can't give you an across-the-board easy answer. Do you know what I mean? These are all tested recipes. If you're going to go away from a tested recipe, you're doing so at your own risk. Okay, Mad Me Kyer. I don't know. MADMECYR. Okay. Okay. What I always thought confusing with ball tested recipes is how something tested safe 20 years ago, but it's now considered unsafe. If the testing is scientific data of temperatures within the jar, length of time, how has that changed? That hasn't changed. The food has. I understand acidity with tomatoes, so on and so forth, but other foods haven't changed over time yet, as a tested recipe is now unsafe. Actually, all your food has changed. In 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years, in 50 years, your food is drastically different than it was back then. The soil that it's grown on, the food that it's fed, I mean, you know, everything about your food is different. Was the recipe tested to begin with? Yes. First time I ran across this was with peanut butter. That was in my first canning book in the 80s, tested safe, but now is not safe. I just don't get it. Science and data should be science and data still. No. Science and data changes. Science changes all the time, constantly. They're always finding new things. That's why it's science. So yeah, it is completely, your food is completely different. So trust the data that is most recent, because you're not eating the same kind of food your grandparents ate or your parents. Garden Grower says, could you do a video on a bunch of really good all-in-one jar meals like pot roast has meat and carrots, potatoes, celery. Yeah, okay. I don't do a lot of those videos. I just did beef stew. And to me, it's easier to can everything separately and add it together. I'm a self-proclaimed ingredient canner. I can the ingredients and then I create meals with those. I'm not big on meals in a jar. I did the beef stew because Phil loves beef stew. Truth be told, I could live the rest of my life without eating beef stew. I have never craved it. I eat it because he loves it. And I made it because he loves it. Those jars were all for him. So I don't do a lot of that. What I do is I take a jar of beef and a jar of carrots and a jar of potatoes and I put it into a pot and I add a thickener to it and I heat it up and I have beef stew. Just like that. I use 3 jars instead of 1. It makes more and it tastes just as good and wasn't all the work ahead of time. If you noticed, I did a lot of prep work with that pot roast. A lot of prep work. So to me, it's easier to do ingredient canning. I made those specifically for Phil so that he had them ready to eat. Yeah, so it's just not something I do. It's really not. I'm sorry. Debbie Buckaloo. I live at 948 feet. The town next to us is 1,152 feet. Since we are so close, should I can with a 10-pound jiggler or use a 15-pound jiggler to be sure? Are you canning in the town next to you or are you canning at home? If you're canning at home, use the 10-pound. If you're canning in the town next to you, use a 15-pound. Yeah. Stacy Berry. Question. Canning sweet potato. I peel and cube my potatoes and fill my jars and then add my hot water and pressure can. I don't blanch my potatoes. They have always been great. Your take? I don't know what you guys want me to say. I don't. So, the process, pardon me, the process on the National Center for Home Food Preservation is to blanch them. Okay? That is what they have tested them at. That is where they are sure that if you blanch them and then process them at the time mentioned, that they are safe and the heat has gone all the way through the center and everything is wonderful and there are rainbows. Okay? If you choose not to do that, I don't know what you want me to tell you. You can do it the tested way or you can do it the rebel way. It's up to you. Linda P. What is the reason you can't put refrigerators back on... Oh, I'm sorry. What is the reason you can't put refrigerator jars back on the shelf? How is that different from storing canned goods in the garage where it gets cold in the winter? Okay, I live in Michigan. If I stored my canned goods in the garage, I would have no food by January because all of the jars would break, all of the seals would come undone, and yeah, no. So there's a temperature fluctuation, obviously. Your refrigerator is kept typically around 40, okay, and storing jars on the shelf in your pantry should be somewhere between 50 and 75 degrees, okay? So if you put them in the if you can them, they're all perfectly fine and safe. You put them in the refrigerator for some unknown reason, leave them in the refrigerator. You can't take them out because that temperature has changed that drastically. And by taking them out and then putting them onto the shelf, one, you don't know that the seal has stayed true, okay? And it just can cause a multitude of issues. So I don't know if I can say this much more, but follow the process and trust the process. You pull the stuff out of your canner, you put it on the counter, and you let it sit there for up to 24 hours. For at least 6 to 8, don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Don't mess with the rings. Don't mess with anything. Just let it sit there. And by 6 to 8 hours, you'll typically know the ones that sealed or didn't seal. If it didn't seal, either choose to reprocess it, new lid, and reprocess it completely the way that you did before, or put it in the refrigerator and have it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, within the next 7 days. Do not put perfectly good sealed jars into the refrigerator and then try to put them on your shelf. Don't do it. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Too many possibilities for issues. Just follow the process. Trust the process. Kyosi Mamam. I hope I said that right. A few chats ago, someone asked about hearing a ping on jars that were on the shelf, and it just happened to me. We are having big temperature changes, and I think that is what is causing it. However, I have 1 jar of chicken and 1 jar of broth and 1 jar that is jam. Tapping on the lid sounds different than the other jars on the shelf, but the lid is still tight enough to lift and hold. My question is, what do I do? Throw them out. When in doubt, throw them out, okay? Because they probably came unsealed and they're resealed without a... Those are some drastic temperature changes if that's happening. You might want to take a look at ways to regulate the temperature wherever they're stored. But, and I know you can't afford to throw food. Nobody can afford to throw food away right now, but that is just one of those things that happens. And that's why you have to regulate the temperature in your pantry. Okay? Saint Bernard. 3 questions. When the comments get to the hundreds, how do you find your questions again? Is it even possible? I have no idea. If siphoning is normal, why do we worry about cleaning the rims? Because you want to get stuff off there, okay? Siphoning happens. It's not a goal, you know? I may have missed the answer in your siphoning video. Okay, so last, when water bath canning, how high can you stack? Okay, so I don't know why people want to stack in a water bath canner, because it just, the water is going to be so deep, you're not going to be able to reach the jars on the bottom. And my fear is that you're going to overprocess the jars on the bottom. So just do 1 layer, do an inch of water over the top, boil, put the jars in, water bath can, swap it out. You're not saving any time. You are risking boiling yourself, though. That could be very, very painful. Marla Bisbee, can you safely can pork tenderloin or also stew meat? What's the best way to hot pack or raw pack things? Yes, you can. Links to the videos are down below. Jen N. Bama. I have a jar that has no nicks, no chips, seems perfect, yet no lid I will use will seal on it. Any idea why? No? No. I don't know what kind of jar it is. No, I don't. Homestead Chili. Okay, here's a fun one. Now that I'm living in Chile, I'm having to adjust all of my preservation strategies. I'm having jars shipped down at $5 each. Ouch, because they don't have jars here for pressure canning. I also can't find real bottled lemon juice, and there's no information about percentage of acidity. I do have citric acid from the US. Can you tell me the formula for replacing lemon juice with citric acid powder? Yes, absolutely. Super easy. So a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid is the equivalent to 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. 1/4 teaspoon of powder is the equivalent to 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. So then 1 teaspoon of citric acid is the equivalent to a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. So for those folks that don't, I don't want to taste the lemon, get the powder, and you don't have to worry about that, and it does everything that you need it to. Great question. Charlene Quinelty. I have dried celery before, but can you can celery? There's no approved method for it, and I can tell you from experience, it's awful and a waste of jar. It's just not good. Dawn Payne. Can you can sliced green tomatoes for frying, or will they become mush? They'll become mush. Jan Stroud says, any tips on canning store-bought frozen vegetables such as mixed peas, corn, or green beans to use in vegetable soup? Getting concerned about possible power outages, and I have canned 95% of the meat that was in my freezer. No ham. Thanks. Okay, so they have mixed vegetables. I'll find it and put a link, but mixed vegetables. Let's look at this real quick, okay? So their recipe for mixed vegetables is 6 cups of sliced carrots, 6 cups of corn, 6 cups of cut up green beans, 6 cups of shelled lima beans, 4 cups of whole or crushed tomatoes, and 4 cups of diced zucchini. You may change the suggested proportions or substitute other favorite vegetables except leafy greens, dried beans, cream style corn, winter squash, sweet potatoes. The whole thing's there. Anyway, so I'm thinking that if you can base what you're buying, your frozen vegetables off of that, and it says you can mix it around. then you should be good. So you can do that. That would be my take on that. And again, I'll put the link down below. Linda Butler says, when caramelizing onions in a crock pot or an electric roaster overnight to pressure can mushrooms be added to the roaster to cook along with the onions to pressure can them all together? I searched and I looked and online, okay, and I cannot find an approved method for canning caramelized onions. So I really can't help you there. I do know that if you were to do it, and I'm not recommending that you would have to can them for the vegetable with the longest time. Now, here's the kicker to that. There is no time for canning onions, okay? There is for mushrooms, but not for onions. So I don't know how you would pull that off. But unless somebody knows of a recipe in a ball book that says that you can can caramelized onions safely, I'm not going to be a lot of help. So, well, I don't feel like I was a whole bunch of help on this canning chat. There seemed to be a lot of questions that were not something I could help with, because I'm not going to tell you how to can milk. I'm not going to tell you how to can onions. I'm not going to tell you that it's okay to can tomatoes without acidifying them. This is stuff that I've repeated multiple times. So I don't know how to help, guys. I really don't. I do encourage everyone to take some time out and go to the National Center for Home Food Preservation and read through. Find what you're looking for and see if it's there. If you can't find it, it may not be around, at which point, hey, kick me a question and say, hey, are you aware of any way to do this? And if I can find it, I will. If I can't, there's not a lot. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. And I think that's what a few of these questions were this week, is that you want me to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not going to do that. I'm really not. I want you to be safe, and I want you to be careful and do things that will not waste money. I don't want you to waste money, okay? So, I'm sorry about this canning chat. Okay, remember, until next time, everybody, please be safe.